Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us, those that are here in person and those that are online. Today is Tuesday, February 21st, 2023. It is now 5:33, and we want to call to order the regular meeting of the South Utica Lyndhurst Board of Education. Mr. Hill, may we get a roll call?
Ms. Falkenberg? Here. Mrs. Jones?
Here.
Ms. King?
Here.
Ms. Lee?
She should be here shortly.
Mrs. Ryan?
She should be here shortly as well. You can go right into item 1.2, new agenda item. Is that the
I'm not
one?
sure.
Was that the one?
It got on there. It was that the placeholder that someone might have put, and it's actually for the treasure, the
Is that what
contract.
I thought that was what you talked about today.
It's
No,
on.
that would have been in the business section.
It's in.
That's
It
not
is in
that.
the business section. so.
Okay, so
I would
there's
just
no
disregard it.
Yeah.
disregard this to
Somebody added
1.2.
Yeah, I think somebody. Yeah, that's a surprise to us too.
Added an item to drag down to a different section probably, and
Yeah.
forgot that item there. Disregard it.
And then we can go right into the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for that. We can go into item 2.1, our liaison reports. We can start with the legislative liaison report, Ms. Falkenberg.
Okay, yes, there were, there was much going on, and I'll try to make it quick. The Senate, the committee in the Senate Education, part of the Senate held a third, or the, representatives, third hearing on Senate Bill SB 1, which would rename the Department of Education as the Department of Education and Workforce and would create the position of Director of Education and Workforce. I spoke with Mr. Hill about this before. It's basically an attempt to take some of the responsibility, but also the power away from the schools and give it to the state. The committee also held a second hearing on SB 17, which would require the state board to update the standards and model curriculum for financial literacy and entrepreneurship in grades 9 through 12 to include free market capitalism content. And then there's another SB 29, which would enact laws pertaining to technology providers for education records and data and require school districts to make public certain information regarding the technology providers they use. Also kind of watching, I think, by Big Brother. The committee amended Senate Bill 49, which would enact the Religious Expression Days, RED, and would require school boards to adopt a policy providing students, teachers, and staff with religious accommodations for up to 3 days. So this is a movement. I've already seen it in some school districts around our area. Just acknowledging that we have a more diverse population nowadays. And then House bills that were introduced. This is one that was sponsored by a woman, Arcanum, I don't know where that is, but anyway, which would enact the Save Women's Sports Act to require schools, states, institutions of higher education, and private colleges to designate separate single-sex teams and sports for each sex, so we can figure out where they're going there. House Bill 8, which would enact the Parents' Bill of Rights to require public schools to adopt a policy on parental notification, on student health and well-being, and instructional materials with sexually explicit content. House Bill 12, which would rename the Department of Education, and this goes back to the Senate bill, the Department of Education and Workforce, and create the position of Director of Education and Workforce, and would reform the functions and responsibilities of the State Board of Education. So we got to take away some of their power. House Bill 38 would allow school districts to permit students to take up to 3 mental health days away from school each year. I thought that was interesting in light of what COVID has done for so many students. And then House Bill 47, which would require the placement of automated external defibrillators, knew I would mess up on that one, in each public and chartered non-public school and each public recreational facility. I thought this was very significant in light of the young man who died on the football field this past, I think it was the past week or two. And they didn't have, it wasn't in Ohio, but they didn't have a defibrillator.
So is that, like, is that coming across as a mandate of, like, how many you should have for so many square footages, or making sure that all buildings have them? when
All
you rent them?
buildings and recreational facilities, yeah. And that's the end of my report.
So.
And there was more, but I don't want to bore you all.
So is the current process with defibrillators in buildings just local?
I think we have to have so many AEDs in a building. Yeah, I think it's,
Bussie just went through them too with
yeah.
I'm just curious.
Is that
where
state
that-
mandated, or?
I thought
Word
we
of-
did, I actually believe that it is
I thought it
is
was
a
too.
mandate that came down, I don't know whether, right?
Yeah, we actually did a case study with University Hospitals this year.
Yes, I remember
Dr.
that.
Flannery.
Yes.
Who's affiliated with the Browns and UH.
Mm.
And he came out and did test runs from all of our practice fields, facilities, where the band would be everywhere.
Oh, good.
And they time how long it takes to get in, to get the AEDs, and then hoping, we actually put in a grant, I go through my notes, but we're just waiting to hear back. We're looking to get, they're not stuck on the wall.
They're portable.
Oh, the
thank you.
portable
Yes.
ones, right,
Portable
right.
ones out there. Thank you.
Sounds like.
So you can, so you can charge them and take them with
Carry
you,
'em with you,
and we
right.
can assign coaches to make sure that they're charged.
Yeah.
And then I know Malika's been working with the nurses, because we just submitted for a couple of new ones through some of the safety grant money. So we actually have new ones coming to, I think Adrian was one off the top of my head.
Yeah, Adrian, Greenview, and we have to replace one at Roche.
Okay.
That's because that model has been discontinued,
Ah.
so we're not able to get the batteries and the
Yeah.
parts that go with it, and so we are replacing those 3.
Tell me that House bill number again, Catherine.
Okay.
Was it
The
47?
last one on defibrillators.
Yeah, 47.
House Bill 47.
Okay. I'm curious to look at that. I wonder if it's more honing in a little more narrow of where they need to be versus,
The distance
because
of
right
it.
now I think it says you have to have one.
Right.
But nobody governs if it's
What location?
10 minutes
right.
away to get to it.
It's
just per building.
Yes.
There's been situations.
Yeah.
where
Right.
So I
yeah.
think that's
But
probably what
obviously,
they're-
some school districts do not have
They have
them
them,
in,
Yeah.
like the
Right.
facilities.
And ours are strategic,
Yes.
Yeah,
so that they are in different wings, particularly.
from the study.
Carl will know best as being former principal here at the.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fine.
Thank you,
Good to
Catherine.
know.
I want to look at
Also,
that.
on the Senate Bill 1, House Bill 1 came out with their kind of response to it, and it's actually a little more alarming. They are looking to decrease assessed value. Right now, we currently get 35%. They're trying to drop it to 31%.
Yes.
And then also take away our rights to collect on homestead and rollback reimbursement. So it's like, that would cripple us from some of that funding back.
Yeah, I'm glad that I didn't understand. I appreciate you bringing that up.
So did you get the information, Mayor said he sent over to you?
Yes,
just
Josh and I,
yesterday?
yep, Josh and I looked at
I
that.
was gonna ask you about that, and then I got a letter in the mail.
I'm sorry?
Some guy from the
Yeah.
county wanting to come out and talk about different ways to collect. We can talk about
I
that
have-
later, because I thought
okay.
that was kind of weird.
Yeah.
All right, that's perfect.
Yeah, Senate bill.
Student achievement, liaison report, Ms. King?
I always love following Catherine because it's always something interesting that you have. So I'm usually like noodling on it when I'm doing my report. So yes, thank you. So I have just 2 items, kind of 2.5, but one of them is 4 strategies for building momentum in the spring. So it's also just think of it as a way to prevent burnout in the spring for students. So by prioritizing movement, focusing on small daily objectives, avoiding mental inertia, and then talk about and celebrate success. So the spring and the spring semester is, regardless of what grade or age you're in, it's a bit like crucial because it's the excitement of summer break coming up, but like the wrap up of all of your classes. So it's very easy to get overwhelmed or burnt out or just not really motivated to move. So the article itself just essentially recommended just breaking things down into chunks, ensuring that the child or the student is moving consistently, focusing on smaller objectives, so a piece of the pie versus the whole pie, as of like tasks and things like that, and then just avoiding mental like strain. So if you're observing, or if you're the student themselves, like if you're at a point where you're like, I've kind of reached my capacity of learning or thinking, listening to that and like taking a break, identifying like breaks are needed, and then celebrate success. So whether it's you as a student or you as an administrator, just identify and acknowledge the successes. It helps to build up the confidence, but also just ensure that it's not just a working, achieving without any kind of recognition. Second item is just for everyone to know, the Ohio Teacher of the Year nominations are open. They are open from February the 1st to March the 31st. You go ahead and submit the nominations online, and it is 7 different categories, if I remember correctly. And the only rule, besides the eligibility criteria, is that you cannot self-nominate.
That might be a good rule.
And then my last item to report on is my intention is that I will be reaching out to Lisa Miller to send out an email to the building principals, requesting for them over the course of like each month to compile a list of some student achievements they would like to be publicized during our meetings. So fingers crossed, next month in March, I will begin reporting out with the student liaisons from outside of the district, some in-district reports as well.
That's good. So would they compile them all and send them over to Lisa to send out to you, or are you just going to start out with her and kind of get a feel?
I would defer. What would be best? I mean, because I would take them and then just like pick each
Yeah.
month, or if it'd be easier for Lisa to pass them on, I'd be fine with that.
I think they tend to be pretty responsive.
Okay.
If you were to email each of them,
Okay.
the head principals, I think they would be responsive because they would probably dish out to their groups and then just feedback to you if you want. That way you don't have to have her filter them. I mean,
Okay.
and see, I mean, most of them really respond. I
think
would
they'll
be
be
really
excited.
shocked if someone does not respond to you. I would be shocked.
Okay. And then I will try each month or just year with the year to like spread it out. So it's different buildings, different grades, different types of achievements.
That'd be great.
Well, thank you for your initiative and efforts.
I'm really excited about it. So yeah.
That they say the vibe you give off is the vibe you attract. So if you're very excited about it, I'm sure our principals will be too. Along the lines of what you, Ms. King, what you reported on, I think we've, through the years, of estimate or relied about powering through the day. I think there's sometimes there is a value for both adults and children to take a break. I have learned myself not to power through the day because sometimes you don't make your best decisions. And so I think that's important to kind of take that physical, mental break just to kind of, do that. So I think that could be a part, believe it or not, taking breaks could be a part of your performance. By taking some of those breaks, I think in some cases does help you perform and make some better decisions. So that's, we need it now more than ever. So let me start with my superintendent's report. If you watched last week or if you were here, we are still continuing to celebrate Black History Month. We had some really great performances, and I tell you what, it really does liven up our meetings, board members, and it was really nice. So I know we can't bring everybody in, and I just wanted to share some of the things that are going on in the building for those that didn't participate in last month's meeting. So all of our K-3 buildings, they have a calendar, and I think last meeting we shared this with you. Just some highlights, Black History Throwback Music Day. Get ready for the 70s and 90s. Soul Train, a lot of fun there. Jackie Robinson Day, Wilma Rudolph Day, Rosa Parks. They also have first grade Black History Month read-in. And then, dress like you're an African American who contributes to the arts, entertainment, or athletics. So there's a lot of fun that they were doing in the K-3 buildings. And also want to acknowledge Mrs. Bussey, who's helped me compile some things. She's been really, in her role as Director of Engagement and Equity, has been doing a lot of stuff there. So our K-3 buildings, we have daily Black History Month announcements, and there will be a culminating assembly. And the Greenview campus, they also have daily History Month announcements, Black History Month bingo going on, and then Black History culminating assembly featuring the Divine Nine fraternities and sororities and their community engagement and presence on college campuses. I think you heard a little bit about it last week with Mr. Coleman. There are 2 assemblies. I have them on my calendar on Friday morning. So I look forward to attending that as well. Memorial also has daily Black History Month announcements. There are various classroom activities with a focus on Black history. And then on 2/28, Portraits in Black Play. And I think you saw that video that Laura Sternavant showed us as well. That's also in conjunction with Brush High School also. So that is Tuesday, a week from today.
February 28th at 6:30.
Yeah.
And the link is not anywhere, I can't find it.
Oh, we'll have to.
If it's up now, but I went home that evening and I could not find the link.
So
maybe when
it's
he
out
asks
there. Yeah, I'll make sure it's out there.
And then Brush High School will be having Black History Spirit Week. So a lot of fun there. So just, again, sharing what's happening in our buildings through the month of February. The second part of my report this evening is to give an update on the elementary playgrounds. And so I know I've been keeping in touch with the board, but I'd like to do a summary because I know there's been some questions. And so this is a good opportunity to give everybody an update. Last spring, and there were some conversations being had with members of our elementary PTA with regards to the 3 elementary playgrounds, and that would be Adrian, Roland, and Sunview. The PTAs were going to begin fundraising and explore applying for grant opportunities at that time. There were several meetings with building principals and some virtual meetings, some on-site meetings that we had in May, and I think a little bit in June. And then we picked up on some meetings back in August. At that time, the district was setting aside $20,000 per site to get things started with the PTA. And then as the fall moved on, there were a few meetings, but then on December 8th, we had a large meeting with district administrators, including myself, and there were PTA presidents, vice presidents, and a few other folks on the virtual call. So in summary, a lot of hardworking people out there, was doing some fundraising, but it was moving slower than I think everybody wanted to have. And so the ask at that meeting was, could the district fund the playgrounds? It was a huge flip to be able to see if we can fund the playgrounds. So we said the team got back together over a break, and we looked at some of the funds that we have, and how could we commit to the playgrounds. And so we are going to delay a couple big projects that we have in order to put the playground in front of those projects. So that's how we were able to do that. So in early January, we were able to confirm, I did confirm with the PTAs and the folks that were involved that we were going to take on and fund the main structure. And then once we received quotes from the vendors, then we would circle back around and meet with those people. So one of the things I think want to explain about the process is once we moved to taking over the project, it really was almost day one for us. And I know that sounds frustrating, and I don't mean it to be, but we have a process that we have to follow. And so what we needed to do was really look at and meet with the vendors and what that process is, because these projects, each one of them will probably be well over $50,000. And so per our board policy, we have to do either competitive bidding, or we have another process that we call going through Ohio School Councils, which kind of speeds up the process, believe it or not. It also saves our district money because some of that cost that we would be doing for the bidding is actually passed on to the vendors. Hate to say it, but it does. That's why it's a cost savings to us. And they're state approved for schools, which all of those things I mentioned actually help with regards to passing an auditor's test to make sure that we're doing our competitive bidding. So Mr. Williamson met with 3 or 4 vendors on January 18th, 19th, and 23rd. The vendors indicated that it would take a few weeks to get the renderings back to us. The timing is really good because I actually have a meeting on my calendar tomorrow with Mr. Hill and Mr. Williamson. I have not seen the renderings and things like that, so I'm excited to see what they come up with. I think one of the things we want to keep in mind when we look at this, it's when you put a playground in, and I had a great experience. It's one of the highlights of my careers as a educator was putting a playground in my last school district, and it was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun too. So I think some of the things we have to look at is the total cost of the equipment, what the installation costs are, the shipping. I think one area that one folks might not know, when you also have an existing structure that you may be tearing down, it is a huge cost, somewhere around $20,000 per structure to be doing that. So there's some, there's also with regards to if we go through a community build, it does affect our insurance rates because it's a little bit different. So there's a lot to think about. Yeah, they would. You want to explain about the insurance?
Between the insurance and the warranty of the work from the companies, we wouldn't be guaranteed the full warranty if we did a community build because the actual facilitator of the equipment didn't install it, so that's issue 1. Issue 2, we potentially run into conflicts with the insurance, because if it wasn't done up to code by the warranty guarantor, we could potentially have issues.
So,
I'm sorry. Community builds isn't, and I'm just thinking of a district I've seen before do a community
I
build.
did community
Don't you have a liability with who covers people if they're hurt?
Correct.
Okay, I thought so. And then second, is that the award in your office with the construction hat for the
Yeah.
playgrounds that were built?
so,
No, that was a big news media
yeah,
situation.
we had.
When you were in Garfield. I
Yeah,
researched
we
you
built
before you
a,
came
yeah,
here.
we built one of the beautiful playgrounds in Garfield Heights. And it was a community build. It was 3 years of fundraising and really, and of course, that was in 2006. So I don't know whether the laws and things changed with regards to liability, but it was a huge undertaking with our PTA. It was really great. And that, so, yeah, 2006. I still have it hanging in my office. It was fun. So, what we're saying is we're really doing our due diligence. We're making sure that we are thinking about all the things, including we looking to partner with a few people, and I just want to meet with those folks first before I mention it here in a meeting, because I think there's a lot of ways that we can actually get the community involved, not necessarily maybe do it as a community build, but I also learned that when you take down a playground, sometimes you either have to rent the equipment, and sometimes there's entities that actually already have the equipment. And so I think we'd like to talk with those folks to see if there's something there that can be helpful. I think the bottom line is we want to make sure, sometimes an installation cost could be close to $39,000, $40,000 on a $120,000 playground. So I think that's the piece that what we want to do is get more playground for our money, and anything that we can offset with regards to tearing down the playground and installation will actually get us more money for the structure. So we are very close. Again, I have not seen anything. Tomorrow is my first meeting. I will be meeting with the principals on Friday, And then last but not least, and I know we have some folks here this evening as well, is we looked within the next 2 weeks to actually have an in-person meeting with some of the PTA that actually got this ball rolling. So we are moving as fast as we can. We actually have a lot of other projects out there. We have, you'll see on tonight's meeting, we're doing some of our roofs that badly need to get done. And so I want, folks to know that we are moving as fast as we can, but we have to do it right and do our due diligence when we go through it. So,
Couple questions. Erin, did you have a question first? Because I have a couple questions.
We may have the same one, so you can go ahead, because I was just writing down.
So, the first question I have is, I want to be certain that we're being equitable to all buildings and all children. So if we're going to do a playground upgrade, I want all children to be able, all buildings to be able to assess that and see if we need a new playground.
yeah, that was our biggest, I don't want to say our biggest thing. We wanted to make sure it wasn't just taking on one building. We're
Right.
really looking to make sure that we take on all 3 buildings. I think there's a couple ways to look at it, and again, I have not seen the plans. You might look at a building like Roland that has near 400 students, and then you have a building that at Adrian that I think has 250. So at any given time, you might have, at Adrian have X amount of kids out there, like, I'm just saying 50, but Roland may have double the amount, 100. What I learned about when you build the playground is that you have to make sure that it's big enough to kids that they can safely play on it. And so sometimes it will, and I guess that's more equitable than equal. But I think that's the piece that we're going to be looking at. Does that mean that we can have all the same structure on all 3? Well, I don't know. We're not making that decision. I'm certainly not going to pick out the slides. That's not really my interest. My interest is just making sure that the district follows the process. I know that there's some parents and the principals and teachers have some opinion what they like to see, climbing apparatus, things like that. So, that's where I think the conversation can come in. Nothing has been finalized. We are just getting the renderings back, and we did that probably in a really quick amount of time.
So that took me to my second question. As we deal with I call it a consortium for lack of better words, but that whole bidding process, do they look at the layout of the schools? Because I know what Roland has is not suitable for the building at Sunview, or what Adrian has is not suitable for the building at Roland. I mean, I do like the closure of Roland. I know my kids went there and it was cool when I went there at lunchtime, and how it was closed off. You would never have to worry about a car barreling to the back. But yeah, we have other buildings that won't support a setup like that. So do they look at the,
If I could, I'll defer
I'm
to,
just taking off.
that's okay, defer to Mr. Williamson. I know that he's actually taken it over from Mr. Murphy, who retired, so, Mr. Williamson.
Not a playground expert yet, but we're becoming one. One of the first things that we did is when we scheduled the meetings with the potential vendors from the Ohio School Council approved list, we visited each building. We reviewed each of the playgrounds in current shape, and then they did their measurements and they asked specific questions. What is it that we're looking for? What is it that the school's looking for? What are the principals asking for? What are the PE teachers asking for? And we facilitated all that information as a conduit for that. So they took in all of that stuff and they based it on where we were at each building, and it's unique on what the renderings look like. It'll have the same types of different apparatus and the same type of color schemes, but what is going to be at each building is going to be fit to that building's needs, if that makes sense.
and when you say fit to needs, do you mean what is there for students to engage on and what type of students we have engaging? Because we know
Special needs.
Adrian might have special needs, a higher population, or there might be a smaller population at Roland. Those are the things you mean when you take into consideration?
So we talked about what exactly each building has that is unique to that facility.
Okay,
So we did highlight the specific groups of students at each of the 3 elementaries.
okay.
We talked about the needs for making sure that we had enough different types of apparatus that would allow students to promote free play, while also meeting the needs of the physical health standards that we need to do on a daily basis.
Okay.
So we incorporated from the PE teachers what they want, what they would need, and how they would use the playgrounds as a classroom extension outside outside the gym.
Okay.
So we took all that information, I gave that to them folks, and then they shared their information, and tomorrow's gonna be interesting in how I can unveil this to Dr. Reed and
Okay.
Mr. Hill.
And, okay, another question. So I know, call me ignorant if you want. So a playground to me is like a slide, a swing, that type of thing. Does that also include like the grounding, like the asphalt, like the?
Good news is, our current playgrounds, for the age of the equipment, they are in decent to good shape depending on which site you're at.
Okay.
Our footing is in wonderful shape. We're well above state requirement of safety footing.
Okay.
So that isn't gonna go
Oh,
away.
that's good. So you don't have to, I mean, I think about my driveway. You don't need to take it and grade it all the way down to the low level and redo all of the footing, so to speak.
But we even had conversations about what that could look like if we went away from the mulch that we have,
Okay.
from the wood chips to a rubberized platform, to a, not concrete per se type, but it was a hard floor surface area, and we had those conversations. So what I am proposing or sharing with tomorrow to Dr. Reed and Mr. Hill, that is just what was shared with me. I'm taking what they provide to me tomorrow with feedback, and I'm gonna go back to these vendors, and I'm gonna say, okay, here's what we need to have. We need to have conversations about these 3 things or 5 things. Let's start talking prices a little bit more defined.
Okay.
So then that way I can show up Friday with the next crew to say, okay, here's what we're doing.
Okay. The last question I have is, I know they've been evaluated as far as the need of redoing playgrounds. Refresh my memory of where that is in our strategic plan.
It was in our last strategic plan with regards to looking at our K-3 playgrounds.
Okay.
So we are definitely, COVID put us behind. I think we forgot a lot. I mean, we were actually closing down playgrounds, and I think it was just a forgotten thing. I mean, per the governor, and I think, getting back to some normalcy is really revitalizing the need. So it was in our plan, yes.
Okay, and then I have the same question you had, but I'll let you have it, because I talk too much. Go ahead.
Oh, no, so I'll email, one question, or I sent you a message prior, you'll get it in a second. So, just looking at this, so, I heard a big number of 50K thrown out there, correct?
Oh, I used,
That's not
I used 50K because that's our threshold for the board policy.
That's fine. That's the
I
question.
wish it would
That's
just
why I
cost
had it.
50K.
Yeah, right.
Okay, that's, I was like, wait a minute.
For the threshold of the policy to have to be in compliance with audit for bidding.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
that's it.
Okay, okay, so I
She said well over
understand.
50.
Yeah, that's
So
it's
my
well over
question is,
50.
So prior to, if I'm hearing this correctly, and please excuse my ignorance, I have been busy lately and I didn't thoroughly read the email from last week. But, so with us taking this over from PTA, we are at a step 1 now, correct?
We didn't say we were taking it
Well,
over.
well, we actually are going to be taking on the project and funding the major structure of that. So, and the major structure is the major,
That's my
yes.
question.
Okay.
Because so if I hear that they're fundraising for a playground, and then I hear us saying that we are now taking
Right.
over the fundamentals of this.
And we are. I mean, like I said, we had a meeting on December 8th, and it was a good meeting, and very passionate people, and really care about their children as we do. And the really just kind of came out, and I said, what's the ask? And the ask was, could the district take over the project? And, obviously, I never wanted to say anything on the spot, because I never want to overpromise and underdeliver. I knew it was a huge thing. And so we got together and thought, well, how do we come up with a significant amount of money in a short amount of time? And as I said, we're going to defer some buying of furniture and things like that. So that's the pieces as how we were able to do it, just to defer the different, now instead of one swoop, we're going to have to do it in increments with a furniture replacement. So to answer your question, when we say we were taking on a project that's over 50,000, that's why I use that, because that's the minimum threshold. And so it's more than that. So that's where, to us, it is step 1, because now we have to do our due diligence. And I thought we moved pretty quick. We did it in January, and here we are. We got some renderings. again, no final decisions. I haven't even seen anything yet, and I think that's, you know, so we're
It's not a true step one
It's not
either,
a true
because we're
step one
going through
until-
we're going
okay.
through the consortium anyway, so step one would be bidding if we were doing it on our own.
right.
Okay.
But the fact that we're gonna use the consortium allows
It-
us to kind of forego those first steps.
Yes,
Gotcha.
it moves it quicker.
And you say we're delaying furniture replacement, what else?
Well, that a big part was the was furniture for grades 1 through 3.
And
In the
and-
classroom.
And what is the condition of furniture for grades 1 through 3 in terms of day-to-day operations and education?
Well, we actually replaced grades 5 and 6, Mr. Capel, because we actually, when we assessed the 1 through 5 and we did walkthroughs, in our opinion, 5 and 6 was actually the most need. So we have taken care of that.
Okay.
You have kindergarten, you have tables, so that's why we weren't looking at the tables. Look pretty good. We actually have some first grade classrooms that had tables. Some have what you call a desk. So I think, you know, I think next fourth grade seems to be good. That's why we haven't touched fourth grade. So I actually think 1 through 3 desks are in better condition than 5 and 6. So I'm glad that we were able to take care of that. But they are definitely they're in need. I think it's, you know, it's nice to have a fresh desk instead of some of the old ones that open up and, you know, and fall down sometimes, make it a little hard on kids. So, yeah.
Your average seating and
Well, and I think the new style desk actually, you know, you really look at desks as what kind of learning do you want going on, and so when you look at today's desk for students, they're a lot more mobile to get kids together in pairs or twos, and I think that's the piece that we want to focus on. It's not just a desk; it becomes transforming your classroom learning environment into today's learning style. So that is something we feel still passionate about, that we're going to still keep our foot on the pedal, just take a step sideways right now.
no, I sent a message for mine, so I think I'm good.
Anybody else have questions?
No, I, you know, appreciate the additional information. I think it's important to share. You know, and being on the board as long as I've been, you know, I think, Linda, you've always done a great job of setting out, you know, being transparent about what we're gonna do, what we need to do, looking at all of the, you know, different factors, and most importantly, following the process we need to follow. And it is, you know, time consuming, but thankfully we can use a consortium, because if we had to go out to been through that before, we know that takes months. By the time you get everything, you send it out, and then if the bids come back and they're higher than you want and all of that, so
And
the fact that,
process costs
yeah,
that much more money.
exactly. So, and then you gotta go out to bid again, and so being able to use the consortium, I think, you know, that's great, and I appreciate that. You all, I mean, obviously you're gonna get the renderings. You know, it's important to remember, like Mr. Williams, you said, not only is it the needs of each area, but each area is not the same size.
Right, that was my
Also,
question.
you know, and so there's constraints there as well, as far as, you know, where we can put things and how we can put things. And so, I mean, I think we're doing the best we can for the students at the end of the day. That's what our objective has always been, and that's, you know, what this is about. And, you know, I'm fully supportive of continuing to go down this path.
I do. I had a conversation, thank you, with Mrs. Taylor, and I know there's was some concern with regards to the added, how should I say, turnaround that we're going to be adding for with regards to the loop, and to take more cars off the street.
Street traffic.
I think one of the things we looked at is, you know, there's actually a gated system that we use at Roland, and really what it becomes is, and I've witnessed this, there's some folks that like to get there at 2 o'clock, and I think the concern is, if you now have cars sitting in there, would that shorten the time that kids can actually enjoy it? Absolutely not. It won't make a difference, because what it is as a former building principal, you have that gate there, and you control when you want to let the cars come through. And I think that's something with regards to, we've utilized it in other places, and that's definitely something that Mrs. Taylor or the building principal would actually have control over. And you just don't let people through, especially if our phys ed teacher wants to use it as an extension of their classroom and kids are out there. So that was one thing that came up in a discussion, and so just pointing that out. That was, you know, an area of concern, but I think one we'll address with Gates and operationally.
Well, having been a, you know, parent at Sunview many years ago, I mean, that, you know, it's about time that we did, you know, are able to go and do something, because the number of cars and
Yeah.
the number of complaints we get from neighbors in that area about the cars, and so anything we can do to, you know, alleviate that and make it safer for everybody. And I've been at Roland, you know, when they've had the gated thing in place. I've always been amazed, because I think it seems to work really well, and, you know, you definitely keep people off the streets. And things move a lot faster, so.
Yeah, so. Again, we're continuing to move this along as fast as we can, and we do plan on sharing that information with our PTAs, who are very committed as well to this project.
Thank you.
And that concludes my report.
Mr. Hill, do we have any public comment?
None through email.
None. Item 3.1 minutes. The minutes of the regular and organizational meeting of January 10th, 2023, and the special meetings of January 17th, 2023, and February 14th, 2023 will be approved as recorded or corrected. Furthermore, the reading of these minutes will be waived. May we get a motion to approve item 3.1?
So moved. Second.
Ms. Lee and Ms. King? Any questions or comments? Hearing none, may we get a roll call, Mr. Hill?
Ms. Lee?
Aye.
Ms. King?
Aye.
Mrs. Falkenberg?
Aye.
Mrs. Jones?
Aye.
Mrs. Ryan?
Aye.
Item 4, Treasurer's Report.
Good evening. Recommend for approval items 4.1, financial reports for January 2023 month end. Item 4.2, bank reconciliation for month end January 2023. Item 4.3, investment earnings for January 2023. Item 4.4, we have one donation for approval. And then recommend for approval for 4.5, items 4.1 through 4.4.
Yes, and that was a very generous donation to pay for some lunch fees.
May we get a motion to approve items 4.1 through 4.4?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Falkenberg and Ms. Ryan. Any questions or comments?
Just thank you to the person who donated to Adrian, that's nice.
Yeah.
That was nice.
May we get a roll call, Mr. Hill?
Ms. Falkenberg?
Aye.
Mrs. Ryan?
Aye.
Mrs. Jones?
Aye.
Ms. King?
Aye.
Ms. Lee?
Aye.
Okay.
5.
All right. Let's move in slow. Under 5.1, certified staff, recommend to the Board of Education to approve the following certified personnel items for retirements, paid leave of absence, unpaid leaves of absences. And our district leadership team, you know, I know we have quite a few folks here, Rumay, Luann, Lena, and Dennis on here as retiring. What I was thinking about, we have actually quite a big list this year, is maybe we utilize an April or a May board meeting to both our classified and our certified staff who will be retiring. I don't want to wait till June. A lot of times, if I was retired, I may be on vacation by then. So, you know, we certainly want to thank them, and they're still going strong, these folks, and, you know, we will recognize them at a later date. And I think that's it.
May we get a motion to approve item 5.1?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Lee, Ms. Falkenberg. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, I just want to say I've worked with 3 of these people, Renee, Lena, and Dennis, and despite the fact that Dennis and I fought all the time.
Lots done.
It was such an honor to teach with them and collaborate, and just, they are going to be dearly missed.
Make sure you say that loud enough. You said Dennis is going to be dearly missed?
Dennis is
Okay.
gonna
I
be
just want to make sure he hears you when he watches.
I'll make sure if he wasn't watching, he will.
I think I'm joining the old crew. All these
yeah.
teachers taught my kids. I'm getting old.
I feel like I've been here long.
Right. Well, I congratulate them on their ability to retire.
That's right.
And they've poured a lot into the students that they have come across, and they will definitely be missed. I think, we're going into a new age for teaching, and these are some of the foundations of the teachers that we're losing.
Because Watkins Clark, when I tell you, if you want your child to graduate, that was the right teacher, right? Seriously.
May we get a roll call, Mr. Hill?
Ms. Lee,
Aye.
Ms. Falkenberg,
Aye.
Mrs. Jones,
Aye.
Ms. King,
Aye.
Mrs. Ryan.
Aye.
Item 6.
All right, hold on here. Let's see. There we go. It's a little delayed. Under 6.1, recommended the Board of Education approve the following classified personnel items. You can see we have some appointments, change in assignments, which we always document, termination of employment, a few resignations, and paid leaves of absence, unpaid leaves of absence, and we actually got some more substitutes.
May we get a motion to approve item 6.1?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. King and Ms. Ryan. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, may we get a roll call, Mr. Hill?
Ms. King,
Aye.
Mrs. Ryan,
Aye.
Ms. Falkenberg,
Aye.
Mrs. Jones,
Aye.
Ms. Lee.
Aye.
Item 7.
Okay, under supplementals, let's let it get caught up here. All right. I think I got it. All right, we are starting spring season, some supplementals here. You can see for baseball coach, we also have some clubs merging, and we usually do our unpaid leaves, our unpaid volunteers in this section.
May we get a motion to approve item 7.1?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Falkenberg, Ms. Ryan. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, may we get a roll call, Mr. Hill?
Ms. Falkenberg,
Aye.
Mrs. Ryan,
Aye.
Mrs. Jones,
Aye.
Ms. King,
Aye.
Ms. Lee.
Aye.
Under 8.0, we have business items. Let me move through these. The first one is being asked to approve the membership to the Ohio High School Athletic Association for 23-24. That's something we do annually. Yes, it's hard to believe that our scoreboard is 10 years old. It is time to replace it. The company that we originally went with, it is out of business, and so it's been a struggle the last year or so. What's nice about this scoreboard too, we are able to sell sponsorship, and I don't know if anybody knows our new athletic director, Jamar Ross. He's a master at that. One of his fortes coming from the college world. 8.3 is actually a large roofing project that we have going on at Greenview. So it is one of the, we do have aging buildings, and we did a roof analysis, and we're really taking care of this is a major one, so the cost would be more than a few of the other ones that we have on here. This is the Educational Service Center of Northeast Ohio. It actually is an agreement for 2 years. It runs through 2025. This allows us to use the Educational Service Center for various things, from anything from personnel to consultants and things of that nature. 8.5 is actually is roofing repairs to Adrian, Greenview, Memorial, Sunview, and Brush. But these are more, I guess, I would call more minor repairs. So different company and that, but so there are two different types of repairs. And I think this is the one that got the 8.6 service agreement for the treasurer's office. And then 8.7, recommend the approval of business items 8.1 through 8.6.
May we get a motion to approve items 8.1 through 8.6?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Lee, Ms. Ryan. Any questions or comments? So what is the typical life of a scoreboard?
That's why I asked, about 10 years?
10 years.
Yeah.
Ours went out last year, though.
Oh, I know.
Last year went out.
Yes,
You
it
came,
did.
And I was making fun of Don.
We were limping along there, yeah.
The good news is with the new one, we have a local
Company.
repairman / service provider that's right down the street. And everything will be technologically advanced and updated, so if there is a request because there's an issue, they can be in less than 35 minutes. So that's huge. And then I won't have to worry about getting a phone call on a Friday night or a Saturday morning or a Tuesday evening saying, hey, the scoreboard's not working.
Notice the grin coming from
I
the back
know.
row.
Don't get mad, 'cause I got your number on speed dial.
Oh, is that Mr. Zachariah back there?
So is that replacement gonna be somewhat similar, color, size,
I think-
or a little?
The bones of the current board are gonna be used, so we don't have to do any additional adding of any steel beams or anything, so we're good with that. It's gonna be about the same size. It's gonna be a little bit more, weatherproof.
Okay.
The
Well, technology's 10 years later.
updated, so it'll be
Yeah.
able to withstand some of the winds and the drastic change from hot to cold, just like this week. It won't be so, rough on the motherboards on each of the panels.
Hearing no further questions or comments, may we get a roll call, Mr. Hill?
Ms. Lee,
Aye.
Mrs. Ryan,
Aye.
Ms. Falkenberg,
Aye.
Mrs. Jones,
Aye.
Ms. King.
Aye.
Okay. 9.0, academics, technology, and innovation. Let me get to here. Very pleased to put quite a few of these on here. We've done a good job with getting a robust number of MOUs for College Credit Plus. We have Ashland University, 9.1, 9.2, Carver Community College, 9.3, Kent State University, 9.4, Lakeland Community College, 9.5, Notre Dame College, and then, of course, 9.6, approval of academics, technology, and innovation items as presented, 9.1 through 9.5.
May we get a motion to approve items 9.1 through 9.5?
So moved.
Second?
Ms. King, Ms. Falkenberg. Any questions or comments?
It's nice we have so many more options for the,
Yeah.
for the students to access services.
So refresh my memory, the new ones occur on this list because a student has shown interest to want to utilize it?
No, the new ones on there is that we have, spoken to them and they have interest in offering us some CCP options. So
Okay.
a student hasn't done it, we've kind of pushed the
So
envelope a
So we
little
built
bit.
that relationship.
Yes.
Now, do we market that? How do we market that to the students to let them know, hey, this is an option?
So the high school counselor, Christy Myers, does a really good job of that. She holds a CCP, meeting with the, I think it's like sophomores, juniors, and seniors. But we've also reached out to some of the staff members, here at Brush, if they're interested in teaching CCP, to have more in-house,
Yes.
on-campus
To help some
CCP
students.
options.
Okay.
So we're working on what we're offering.
And how is the temperature of that response?
It was, it went really well. We met with the guidance counselors and the content leaders and kind of ran through it. We looked at some data from from AAP and CCP courses. But I think they're kind of excited to see more of our kids attending CCP, but at Rush.
Yes,
And not
that was gonna be
necessarily
my next
somewhere else. Yeah.
It would be great to have,
Yeah, that,
all of those.
it proved to
Yeah.
be a challenge for some students with trying to get back on
Yeah.
campus and that too, but, so we're really excited to be able to offer, again, kudos to those folks that have worked on it, I know, as well as the consultant that we've had, to really trying to build out our options for our students.
And I think that's a good thing. I would like to know how that's transpiring to do that. I think a lot of kids want to take advantage of those things, but no one wants to lose their high school year.
I think that's a
Their
big
friends are
part of
here.
it. Yeah, when you go somewhere else, you're not here, and I think and our staff members, our teachers are more than capable of teaching those CCP classes on campus, and,
And reality is, I mean, I know a lot of people don't want to admit it, but that is the new way.
yes,
It is.
It
is.
You're starting to see less and less districts offering AP.
Yep.
They are going to in-house college credit plus because the caliber of child is able to handle the rigor.
yeah, and I think the trend is too, that more colleges are accepting those CCP credits now, because the trend is,
Yeah, they're accepting them a lot more than AP credits.
yeah, well, you got to score Gotta get that test passed for AP.
Any further questions or comments?
You know, our previous board member would actually, I think he would actually enjoy
He would have a heart
that
attack right
conference,
now.
but he would enjoy that conversation that we're getting people in-house.
Yeah.
To do it more so.
Yes, I think so too.
Hearing no further questions or Bloomberg comments, may we get a roll call, Mr. Hill?
Ms. King,
Aye.
Ms. Falkenberg,
Aye.
Mrs. Jones,
Aye.
Ms. Lee,
Aye.
Mrs. Ryan.
Aye.
Item 10.
Just started to.
Under 10.0, Student Services Strategic Partnerships, we have one item recommend 10.1 to approve the agreement with LearnWell. This is when sometimes we have students that are outplaced and we have to provide instruction for them. And that is just one item there. Does it have the marking?
I'm adding it.
Okay,
Depends on
there-
mine.
he's gonna add a vote for,
I
it,
was gonna say.
I know somehow.
May we get a motion to approve item 10.1?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. King, Ms. Falkenberg, any questions or comments?
Yes, I did, and I didn't write down what if I noticed the difference, but I noticed in 11.2, we have another LearnWell.
Yes, so what we have is, we have to separate that out. There are two separate agreements. One would be for a student with an IEP, and then the
Okay,
other
got
one,
it.
so
Thank
it
you.
is two separate students, yes.
All right.
Yeah. No problem.
Okay.
Oh, now it's coming back to me. I do
It's okay.
remember reading. Okey-doke.
No problem.
Section 11.
You need to vote still.
A vote.
May we get a roll call, Mr. Hill?
Ms. King,
Aye.
Ms. Falkenberg,
Aye.
Mrs. Jones,
Aye.
Ms. Lee,
Aye.
Mrs. Ryan.
Aye.
Now we're under 11.0, exceptional students, so let's go to 11.1, recommending the Board of Education to approve agreement with the Cleveland Clinic Learners School of Autism to provide services. Then we have 11.2, which is again with LearnWell, but it is another student as well. And then 11.3, approving items 11.1 and 11.2 for exceptional students.
Just a question by way of procedure. So in 11.1, shouldn't that be redacted? The description of the name,
Of these, for which part?
right here.
Oh, in the notes.
Oh, that's the administrative.
That's administrative content.
Yeah,
No
you're
one
saying
else can see that,
administrative
but-
content only. This would be the
Right, it
general.
just, because look at that one.
But that's still administrative.
Yeah, they just look different. Both of them say
Oh.
redacted,
They say
except for
redacted.
that person.
Gotcha.
that one.
Probably
We'll
should,
take a look
yeah.
at that. I would agree.
There.
Yeah.
It's
In the
not-
administrative.
It's not out there for the public, but yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
But the other one at the bottom.
I know what you're saying.
Okay.
Okay,
All right, noted.
agreed.
Noted.
Yes. I agree, noted.
May we get a motion to approve item 11.1 and 11.2?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Lee and Ms. Ryan, any questions or comments? Hearing none, may we get a roll call, Mr. Hill?
Ms. Lee,
Aye.
Mrs. Ryan,
Aye.
Ms. Falkenberg,
Aye.
Mrs. Jones,
Aye.
Ms. King.
Aye.
And that concludes my items for this evening.
Item 12, Board of Education, any information that the board would like to bring forth?
Yes, I would. I will be in Ms. Strana's class tomorrow at 10:30. If anyone would care to join me to talk about public comments and public speaking and how to present yourself and do a public comment at a board meeting. Ms. Strana came up with the idea when she attended a Shaker Heights board meeting where she is a current resident, and she felt it was interesting and she felt it was something that her students should know about as well.
Oh.
So I will be going to them tomorrow to speak about our public comment. I did slack today because I can do it myself. That's okay. So you know, Josh, I can do it myself tonight when I get home. But yes, I'll be there at 10:30 speaking to Ms. Strana's class. And then next month, if you all can prepare yourselves, because we will be coming with public comment for you all.
Nice.
Oh, from the kids?
From the kids, yes, they will be coming with their own public comment.
Okay.
So when you go to talk to them, will you talk to them about the difference between work session and a,
Correct, and also just what our policy states
and,
and how we go about it, correct.
okay. So I'm not coming because she said one or both of you, and you selected one, so I will let you have it.
No, she said anyone is able to come. I just so happened to
So-
reply.
You were the first
So
one.
I'll let you have
Thank
that.
God, that's rare for me that I actually saw it. Like, I
So
just-
that's good
I
to
have
know.
to be at the office all day.
I
otherwise
might
would've
stop.
joined
You might stop in there.
Melinda.
Let's see, what do I have? Oh, I did go to Lyndhurst City Council meeting last night because I slept through the beginning of the month. So I missed it. So they let me in last night and I was able to give them a report. That was pretty fun. I haven't seen them all year, so that was pretty cool. They don't have many concerns. They're excited as well. They are excited about getting the opportunity to sit on the
Some strategic-
piece of the strategic plan. So everywhere I go, people are still saying,
Cool.
are you guys still gonna do that? Because as a citizen and as a resident and as a council person, it was so cool.
This is my third one, my third strategic
So-
plan with this district.
That was
so
pretty
yeah.
exciting. And then your office and the district did get a kudos. They actually specifically said, I'm so excited that most of the things that I've seen go into the strategic plan have come to fruition. They spoke specifically about your newsletter,
Yeah.
about your email listserv, about scoreboard at one point in time. I did have a request about, are we going to look into pumping money into the Performing Arts Center? So I said I do truly believe that it's gonna be on that strategic plan. So it was good to see a lot of feedback from
No, it was really
the
good.
council people praising us for, and what I followed that up with was, one thing Dr. Reed did promise when she came was it was not gonna be a stack of papers that go on a shelf.
That's right.
And it has been living and breathing, and we have been following it as a guide, and we will continue to do such.
Thank you. And our team, we, again, Karen Darnell came up to me last week when we were at the PTA Founders Night, and she is retiring in that. And one of the things she said was, she lives in the community, and she felt that there's been plans before, but but to your point, that she actually has seen the plans come alive. And so we have a lot of people behind doing that. And so we're getting ready to make more plans. So I look forward to that.
And then council meeting for March, Erin is on deck. She will be at Lyndhurst March 6th. And at South Euclid for March 13th, they are still in the community center. They have chairs set up, and you will be able to stand at that podium and speak. So that is what I have. I will be at Greenview on Friday.
Is that the HBCU day?
Yeah.
Yes,
Are you going to the
ma'am.
8 a.m. or the
8
9?
a.m. to 8:40, and then 9 to 9:40. So they will have two separate
I'm gonna be at the
time
second one.
slots.
I'm gonna try to go to the 8 o'clock one.
Yeah, I'll be at the 8 a.m.
You'll be at the 8? Okay.
Hey.
Well, I'll be at them.
I'll be at the second one.
I'll be at both of them, and then I'll try to head over. I don't think I have anything else as far as information.
Now we just have the
Anyone else
board
does?
policy first reads.
12.2, new and unfinished business. I don't think we have any. 12.3, board policy first reading. Superintendent presents the following policies for first read and preliminary review. South Eagle Lyndhurst Board of Education will be asked to vote to adopt these policies at the board meeting being held on March 21st. Policy number 2413 and 2430 are both revised.
Mhm.
2431 and 8210 are both revised. I will not labor you with the reading of them because they are attached, so feel free. Item 13, in closing, 13.1, do we have any public comment, Mr. Hill?
No.
No? Did you get a form, Ms. Becky? No. Do you want one, or were you just fixing your sweater? Yeah, I do, just for record keeping purposes. You got one?
I can write it down.
We can write it down.
Yeah.
Come on down, like the price is right. You can actually use my mic, I will share.
State name and address.
State your name and address for the record, please.
Okay, can I?
Let's break it.
My name is Becky Richardson. My address is 5096 Neal Drive, Lyndhurst, Ohio 44124. So as the SCLPTA president, I want to thank the Board of Education for your support with the playground project. We are super excited as PTA to see this start to come to fruition, and we are very much looking forward to collaborating with the district and working together to bring this into fruition. And we are very, very excited and very thankful to have the opportunity to bring a new safe, healthy play space for our children. We are working on fundraising. We currently have a calendar raffle fundraiser going with some pretty amazing prizes going on right now. And then we will be running the Lyndhurst Home Days Pancake Breakfast. So that will be going to fundraise as well. So we are extremely excited about that. And then I will also share, unrelated to that, I just found out I will be attending the Ohio PTA States Convention, and I will be facilitating a workshop on DEI and the Golden Rule. So that's coming up in April 14th or so. Columbus, yeah. Yeah, so I'm very much looking forward to being a part of that and representing our school community in that. So thank you very much.
Thank you. There is no need for executive session at this point in time. Hearing that, it is 6:39. May we get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Ms. Lee, all in favor?
Aye.
And roll call.
Okay.
Do I have to log out of it?